Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a evening edition of the Sunday service with the Atheist Reformation. I am Drew, and my co-host once again is Harry. How are you doing, Harry?
I'm doing all right. It's a little bit later than usual. Need to make sure.
I figured, noon seems like it's not a lot of people are able to kind of tune in and check everything out, so I figured we'll do it this way today, and we'll see how it goes.
Think I'll be able to leave here to get the early bird special at Luby's?
You're not that old, Harry, even though you look it.
I'm old at heart.
And in hair. Anyway, so thanks for tuning in, everybody. Always remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below. After you subscribe, make sure to click the notification bell icon right next to it, so that way you can get updates on when the next shows are coming out. Normally, I would say that the Sunday service will come out every Sunday at noon. However, because we're playing with the times, that is also going to be changing a little bit here and there as time progresses, so we can figure out what's best for everybody, both Harry to be able to key in and co-host, as well as looking at, viewers, people being able to watch.
Yeah, so if you want to leave some comments about what time you think would be best, this is one of the few times where your internet trolling might actually affect real-world change.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least YouTube change. I don't know if that qualifies as the real world.
Yeah. I mean, we're both pretty fake.
Speak for yourself. Also, remember to follow the Atheist Reformation on Facebook.com/The Atheist Reformation. If you want to be on the show, either discussions with a theist or conduct an interview, try and spark a debate or two, whatever you want to do, feel free to shoot me an email over at theatheistreformation@gmail.com, and we'll see how things go from there. As always, all the articles will be linked in the video description below. So I would say let's go ahead and jump right in and see what's going on in the world.
Sounds pretty good.
Alrighty. Alright, so our first story is going to be about
Any
one particular...
articles in this one, or is this all me?
Say what? No, these have been all you so far.
Oh, okay. Wow, we're starting right off the gates with this one. Okay.
Yeah, I figure we'll have the fun one at the end.
Okay.
We're going to go with the stories that you sent me, stories 6, 7, 1, and I think 4 or 5. I think 5.
Okay.
Was the goofy one. But anyway, and then the other ones we can use for next week, reread them, go through them again, or we can start working on like the deep dive into happy science and whatnot, because I think that's something we should do.
Okay. Now, just to say, these 3 articles, that's weird, they did the 3 quote. These 3 articles actually kind of all go together, so it's probably going to just be like pop, pop, pop going through them.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes, and if this ends up being a shorter episode, we'll see. And if that ends up with more views, we'll try and have more like that are a little bit shorter.
Okay.
Or, and if they end up being shorter, like 30 minutes or so, well, then we can start really looking into really up in the ante on a video editing and whatnot, and seeing what we can do with that. So, as always, like I said, people, comment down below, and give us some pointers, give us some tips, suggestions on what you'd like to see done, how you'd like to see the format change, if you think it needs to change. See how it goes. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to go with that one. And this is not the right story. We're going to start with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so as of April 20th, 2020, there was a lynching in Palghar, saying that the India police arrested more than 100 suspects. And the incident happened last Thursday. But a video of the attack apparently went viral on Sunday. No, we will not be showing the video. Reports say the men who were reportedly mistaken for thieves were going to a funeral when the mob dragged them out of their car. India has been under lockdown since March 25th to curb the spread of coronavirus COVID-19. Among the dead are 2 Hindu godmen and their driver. Harry, since you have some experience having lived in India for a time, explain to the people what Hindu godmen are.
The only short way to describe it is basically a monk, like a pure ascetic.
Okay, well, there you go. The viral video shows the mob lynching the men as police struggled to rescue them. The mob reportedly suspected that the men were child abductors. So they go from thieves to child abductors in 3 lines.
Yeah, the story was in development whenever they wrote it.
Okay, that explains a little bit of the choppiness and disjunctive facts. Attacks over child abduction rumors have happened in the past in different parts of the country. Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, assuming that's how we pronounce that, said that strict action would be taken against the culprits. Former Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis said the incident showed that the government was not in control of the law and order situation in the state. Okay, yeah, a mob happened. I guess that means, to some extent, yes, you've lost control over your district.
It's a little more than that. It's so the particular area is a remote tribal village. We had kind of touched on it briefly in the past, where there's large sections of India that are not even like on the records. Like
okay, right. When we've been covering the new national citizenship registry and the Citizenship Acts.
Right.
Okay. So several Hindu groups have also criticized the incident and raised questions over the lockdown measures in the state. Now, when they're talking about lockdown measures, are they talking about the actual coronavirus lockdown or something else going on?
Yeah, they're talking about the coronavirus lockdown. It's pretty bad over there, where a lot of people are not able to get supplies, medical and food supplies. So there's been a few people that have been dying due to either starvation or lack of medical supplies.
So they haven't really done a very good job as far as the lockdown goes with maintaining essential services and things like that?
It's not so much that. It's that the country as a whole is just very different in terms of their infrastructure compared to what we have in America. When you get out of the urban areas over there, it's a very steep change between urbanized with, running water and infrastructure and like tribal nothing.
So basically we're talking about, to some extent, the roads out there are more footpaths that you drive on.
Some of them, yes, or they're literally just dirt dug through through rainforests that are unkept.
Okay.
In some areas.
Right. Well, I mean, when you have such a rapid population expansion as you have in India over the past century or so, to where they're over 1 billion people, if I'm not mistaken, they're staring down the barrel at 1.5 billion now, aren't they?
They might have surpassed that by now.
May have.
I think they're over that.
I mean, so with that in mind, that makes infrastructure a bit of a crazy thing to try and keep track of.
We're dealing with areas where I would not be surprised if their only electricity was a generator.
Okay. And, well, hopefully India as a whole is able to kind of correct that as time goes on. Societies and cultures evolve over time, just like ours did, and every other developed country in the world. So, they'll get there, hopefully soon.
Yeah, I mean, there are very advanced, very modern areas. Like, I don't want anyone to think I'm saying...
Right, no, they've got like a lot of densely packed urban sprawl. It just seems to be confined to a few major cities in this country versus the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's just like when you get into parts of Texas. We have a few really, really hyper-developed cities. We've got Waco, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin. those kind of places. And then you have places like a town where is not too far from where I'm at, or well, where I'm from originally, East Harmony, and they had some infrastructure issues and whatnot because they couldn't get support from the state when they passed all the things of like as soon as you have some kind of incorporation as a city, it turns into now you're solely responsible for everything, and it was kind of a weird transition for them.
Yeah, if anyone's ever lived in an area that was too small to have a school district or that didn't have a police department, they only had a sheriff, no fire departments or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
like you see out in West Texas,
Right.
the oil field area, that's a pretty good comparison to what we're looking at.
Right. Just the roads are probably a bit better developed out there just because,
Yeah.
I mean, we've had the time to develop like a big text dot organization, so.
Well, it's also very flat and there's not a lot of weather there, whereas
Right.
those similar developed areas in India are rainforest with monsoons that hit them periodically. So
Right, so it's nearly impossible to effectively build a road out there at times.
until you urbanize, yeah.
Yeah. So, moving on with the story, the last couple of little tidbits. Meanwhile, Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh said there was nothing communal about the incident. He added that the victims and the attackers belonged to the same religion. His statement came after several posts on social media tried to stoke religious tensions over the attack. And we have been seeing some religious tension, or a lot of religious tension going on in India that we've covered over the past several weeks with the NCR and the CAA grossly affecting the Islamic population of this country, and not just Muslims in general, but the rural Muslim population.
Yeah. It's interesting for an American audience when they read articles like this and they see there's nothing communal about it.
Mm-hmm.
In India, they use certain terms like that as I hear people say the word dog whistle
Mm-hmm.
or coded language. And
Right, double speak if you want to go into the Orwellian version of it.
Yeah, when they say communal, they're saying that it wasn't religious bigotry involved. That's what they're stating. Like,
Okay.
it definitely was a particular community. It was this very, what's the word? Undeveloped, rural community
Mm-hmm.
that did this because these people were outsiders, and they specifically attacked them for their religion. They did attack them because they were quote unquote godmen, because there was the idea that these godmen or these monks were kidnapping children and selling them into human trafficking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back 100 years, 150 years, these are the same kinds of propaganda that the British Empire would run against Indian society.
Right. It's almost an act of yellow journalism at this point.
Right, and it's just become ingrained in these rumors. So they most definitely were acting off of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it wasn't Muslims attacking Hindus. It was illiterate, rural, backwoods people attacking outsiders because they believed that they were doing this.
It's much like here in the U.S. when someone gets accused of something and they're tried in the court of public opinion before even the first evidentiary hearing has taken place, or even arraignment in some cases, depending on the nature of the offense.
Yeah, it could be like that. It could also be akin to if you had people who were of a particular religion.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to use the example because it's such a hurtful stereotype, but let's say you had a priest going through an area and then some people who were not of that denomination began to kidnap and attack the priest because they had heard these stories.
Right. Talking about the issue that has happened in the past with some Catholic dioceses throughout the United States and issues of possible pedophilia.
And if
it would be as if they went to some random rural area in Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, somewhere like that, and they were attacked just because of that reason.
And
Because they thought they might be that kind of person just because they wore that particular funny collar.
yeah, and it's because the way that it's portrayed in the media, you would see it or think of it as way more widespread outside of those particular areas.
Right.
And it very clearly those individuals would have been targeted because of their religion. It's just that the person that was attacking them may not have been of the quote unquote other side.
Right. It could have just been, okay, this is the rumor that's attached to these particular people. Though 2 members of those particular people are coming to town.
Yeah.
Let's get them.
And just going through town in this case, they weren't even staying in town. They were just driving through to get to a funeral.
Right. So let's go ahead and move on to avoid further speculation. Let's go ahead and move on to the next story and see if we can Paul Harvey this for everybody. So this is coming from thehindu.com. This is one of the national newspapers in India, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So Maharashtra CM, that's their community minister or something like that.
Think chief minister.
Yeah. Calls for action against communal twist to Palgar lynching. So, again, we've kind of decoded what the word communal means as far as how they reference things and typify things. So, at face value, it looks as though he's calling out against implying that it's a communal twist. But let's see how the story plays out.
Yes, and wants to take it one step further, where there's possibly action against people that were spreading fake news.
Okay. So, while urging Union Home Minister Amit Shah to initiate action, he also ordered a high-level inquiry into the incident. Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray on Monday urged Amit Shah to take action against those giving communal color to the lynching of 3 men by a mob in Palgar district. The state government has already ordered a high-level inquiry into the situation that took place on April 16th. State Home Minister Anil Deshmukh earlier warned against giving any communal color to the incident, as 2 of the 3 deceased were believed to be seers. These are the Hindu godmen that we saw referenced in the BBC article that we just read, for those who were just tuning in. In a video message, Mr. Thackeray said he received a call on Monday from Amit Shah, who himself said there is no, I'm just going to say, religious or bigotry angle to the Palgar mob lynching incident. Says, I have urged him to initiate action against those who are giving a communal twist to the Palgar mob lynching, which is factually incorrect. I also informed him that my government is definitely going to take action against the perpetrators. So we'll see kind of what happens with that.
Yeah.
Inspector General of Police Atul Chandra Kulkarni will head the probe into the lynching incident, he said. Mr. Thackeray said the 3 men lynched by the mob seem to be victims of some rumor, and there is no religious background to the incident. As per my information, the seers were on their way to Surat in Gujarat during the lockdown. They were stopped by Dadra and Nagar Haveli police and sent back to Maharashtra. As they took an internal route passing through Gachandali village, which is, call it 60 miles away, 65 miles away from Palgar district, they were stopped by locals who suspected them to be a gang of thieves stealing children, the chief minister said, adding that police vehicles were also attacked by the mob. The village where the attack took place is barely a few miles from the border of the Dadra and Nagar Haveli Union territory, he pointed out. Over 110 people have been arrested so far, including 5 main accused. And the 2 police officials have been suspended for dereliction of duty. I'm not entirely sure that the 2... if the police were there, because based on what that BBC article said, the police were there and they were trying desperately to get through the mob to rescue these individuals that were being attacked.
The video shows a couple of the police, at least, were
just hanging back.
They were either hanging back or they had just given up and they didn't want to put themselves in danger. And there was a lot of people upset about that until this article came out, where they were taking some kind of investigative action toward them.
Okay, so I can at least understand that. Now, so out of the total accused, 9 are juvenile, and they have been sent to a remand home. I'm assuming that a remand home is some kind of juvenile detention facility.
Yeah.
Okay. I have informed Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, who had called seeking details about the incident. The Chief Minister on Sunday said stern action will be taken against those involved in the lynching of the 3 men. He said those behind this heinous crime and shameful act will be brought to justice in the strongest way possible. I would assume that they're probably going to seek the death penalty or something with that if they're talking about the strongest way possible. But I'm not entirely familiar with the justice system in India. I know it is mainly based off of the justice system in the UK.
Yeah, they do the death penalty. They have hangings.
They have hangings. Oh, okay. Well, you know.
It's rare that it would get to that level, but there's been some pretty public stories in the past decade where people have been, they have hangings for certain crimes. Now, most of those people that I've heard of do attempt suicide in prison before they actually go to get hung because the shame of a public execution.
Right, and especially with the Hindu faith and whatnot, with the principles of reincarnation and what happens in this life proceeds and follows you to the next until you eventually, hopefully, get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to wet the whistle a little bit there. Mr. Deshmukh earlier said those who attacked and who died in the Palgar mob killings are not from different religions. That's where they mean it's not communal. So, this was not some type of religious violence that occurred. He said in a tweet on Sunday, I have ordered Maharashtra police and Maha Cyber 1, I'm assuming that this is probably their cyber crimes division of sorts, to take action against anyone instigating religious hatred in the society or on social media. Mr. Deshmukh said police are keeping an eye on those who wanted to use the incident to create a rift in society. An assistant police inspector and a sub-inspector from Palgar were suspended on Monday for alleged dereliction of duty in the wake of the incident that took place on April 16th, when those 3 men from Kandivali in Mumbai were going in a car towards Surat to attend a funeral. And then they identified the deceased. But we will mention this. The 3 were dragged out of their car and beaten to death with sticks by a mob on suspicion that they were thieves. So there's this constant shift between, are they thieves, are they kidnappers?
I think it's a language thing.
This could be a translation issue.
It's like a cultural...
I'm not dismissing that.
Words. When they're saying thieves, they mean thieving of children.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the last of these stories and kind of how we move on through this. It says, none are Muslims. Maharashtra Home Minister shares list of the 101 arrested in the Palgar lynching case. So, yeah, looks like he tweeted out the entire list of those involved.
Which is kind of unusual for an American audience, you know?
Yes, it is very odd. But, the thing is, arrest records are public knowledge in the U.S., or at least in most states they are. However, if something is still under investigation, it's not, that information is not released unless the individual's been charged with a crime.
and there's also children, or no, I wouldn't say children, but underage people, minors in the list.
Mm-hmm.
That's very unusual for an American audience.
So, in a statement made on social media, Deshmukh said Palgar mob lynching is a grotesque incident which happened due to rumors on social media about child kidnappers and thieves prowling in the area. Okay, so this is like this clown bullshit that happened here in the States some, 3 years ago now?
Yeah.
If people in clown costumes and this, that, and the other. It was started as kind of an internet trolling thing, which I wouldn't be surprised if this was too. Some kind of internet troll thing, and now it's resulted in a body count.
Oh, there's been incidents like that in the past in India where they've had to shut down access to YouTube for a little while because people were putting up stories that that Muslims had attacked a Hindu group, and then the Hindus were going to riot and attack the Muslim communities.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of those things were true. But the fear in the story that these groups would be going into these primarily Muslim areas prompted a lot of the people there to move away, and so they were being displaced. And then you had that on the Hindu side as well. They were afraid that they were going to get attacked. So you had all kinds of people of both religions moving away from their homes, abandoning their lives for a couple of weeks, afraid that they were going to get a riot come after them. And then the government said, we got to shut down Twitter, we got to shut down YouTube. We can't do this until you can stop this and be sensible. You can't use those websites anymore.
Right. And let's see. Look at the comments here real quick. Oh, okay. My little brother jumped in to say hi. Hello, Matthew. Thanks for tuning in, bud.
Hi, Matthew. So yeah, this story brings me no pleasure to discuss.
No, absolutely not.
Important.
It really sucks that this has happened. It really does. People have lost their lives over a bullshit rumor.
Yeah.
There was a sound heard in the video Oye Boss, and people circulated it online, with some calling it Shoaib Boss. At a time when the entire state machinery is busy fighting coronavirus, there are some people who are trying to bring a religious angle into it. In a video that the minister posted on his official Facebook page, Deshmukh reiterated that none of the accused in the incident belonged to the Muslim community. I'm going to read that again. In a video that the minister posted to his official Facebook page, reiterated that none of the accused in the incident belonged to the Muslim community. So, this was not religious violence. It is unfortunate that religious politics, or I'm going to say identitarian in some ways, is being played following the incident. Some people are having pipe dreams about politicizing the issue. It is not the time to play politics, but to collectively fight the coronavirus. Okay? I can get behind that. That's a good statement.
I would clarify that it is an example of violence against a religion. Just not a religious identity.
Right. It's not religiously fueled violence. This is bigotry occurring in their country.
Right.
But there again, no country is immune to bigotry. Any country that claims that there is zero bigotry in their country is either lying or trying to sell you something.
Yeah, and one of the things that's a little weird is the way that the word communal has been used about the tribal groups. If you look at them, they're not all Hindu. So to say that they're of the same religion is really not accurate. They're a mix of some Hindu and some Christian and in some very small minority areas, perhaps a little bit of Islam is mixed in. But they're primarily animist. So these are continuing animist cultures that have been influenced by some of the other religions, and some
Mm-hmm.
people have converted, but they are primarily animist.
Right. So it's talking about how these people were. See, I can understand why they used the term lynched.
Yeah.
Um,
It just means something different in America.
right. So over here it means something very, very different, and they refer to it as the Palgar lynching at this point.
Yeah.
Um, these men were attacked not because of who they were or what they represented, but because of what they were perceived to be based on a nonsense rumor.
Yeah.
So, this actually really feeds into the title of what I'm calling the next story, but also the overall title of the episode, which is A Spoonful of Nonsense.
Yeah. I guess.
And the reason why it's just a spoonful of nonsense is because, well, um, I felt the title "A Spoonful of Nonsense Gets People Killed" was a bit too long of a title.
Yeah. For the audience, while you're switching up the articles,
Sure.
just to clarify the difference between, if we have any international audience watching, in America, the term lynching is usually specifically talking about a hanging done based out of racial prejudice.
Yes, typically.
Historically, that's what it usually means. It appears that in India, the term lynching refers to any kind of mob or riot, extrajudicial murder of someone.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what it meant over here as well. Just primarily, it ended up being a form of racial violence.
Yeah.
So, moving on to A Spoonful of Nonsense, and you know what? Before we really get into that, I'm going to finish writing the Atheist Reformation public service announcement of the week. There we go. We'll use that later. Alright, so going back to this. So, coding medicine with religion, a new way of confusing Moroccans amid the coronavirus. While scientists and doctors around the world are trying to find a vaccine for the novel coronavirus, so called experts, quote unquote, on social media, of course, have showered Moroccans with recipes to fight against the virus, mixing modern medicine, traditional medicine, and religion. Homeopathy, the bullshit that just won't quit.
Look, I know we busted Jim Baker a couple weeks ago.
So we're gonna bust these assholes too.
Well, I guess he decided to move to Morocco and try the same thing.
Yeah, maybe. Doctors, sociologists, and Muslim scholars have rebuked these practices. Okay. The international coronavirus health crisis has given birth to a series of unusual practices. Internet experts have taken to advise Moroccans on how to deal and protect themselves from the virus. Some of them have even claimed they have found curing recipes, or curative recipes for the virus. Mohammed Zin Adin, who presents himself as a researcher in medicinal plants and director of a cosmetics company, is one of these so-called experts. In a viral video posted in March, he claimed to have received calls from outside Morocco regarding a plant he would have discovered. Okay. I'm thinking this might be some, I don't know. Either he's trying to take post hoc credit for being asked about a specific plant that apparently nobody flipping knew about, or this is a typo. But I don't know. We'll see.
I would have if I wasn't included on it.
Right. He would have discovered, and which would supposedly be a cure for the new coronavirus. He says, "I know this plant boosts immunity and kills all viruses and bacteria."
Where have we heard that before?
Homeopathy. And I'll reiterate it once again. Homeopathy is bullshit. Also, there is no panacea. There is nothing that we are currently aware of that just kills literally everything. And the reason why is because viruses and bacteria are two completely different things.
Other than horrible amounts of radiation.
Except that's primarily except that doesn't kill just viruses and bacteria, that just kills everything.
Very true.
I mean, so it's like those idiots that were injecting themselves with hydrogen peroxide. And they invented a new version called pharmaceutical grade to somehow say it's safe. Like, no, it's a mild base. It just kills everything. That's what it does. Anyway, he has said this in a video that has accumulated 1.5 million views to date. This story was written, appears to be on April 24th. So that would be a couple of days ago. Which means it probably has even more views now, unfortunately. Another example.
How jealous are you that their nonsense gets 1.5 million views and we've got like a cool dozen views in the episode?
Well, because Mark Twain. A lie will travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on his shoes.
Yeah.
Another example is that of a Moroccan Raki, a traditional exorcist. Oh man, we're just batting 1,000 today. Who said in an interview published on YouTube and later deleted that honey mixed with black seeds is the remedy for coronavirus.
Does it matter what kind of seeds, or does it just have to be black?
I mean, if it's Morocco, I would assume it's probably poppy. If not, maybe chia.
You know, I think honey and poppy seeds refined in the correct manner would cure just about anything you may be feeling.
I mean,
at least for the masses, it would.
You either don't care or you're dead from an OD.
Yeah.
Another Moroccan-based Palestinian expert also claimed he found a cure that kills the coronavirus 300. Maybe that's just the name they have for it over there. We'll go with that.
Coronavirus 300.
I mean, is this like some weird, twisted microbiological version of the Gates of Thermopylae?
Maybe.
You've got these 300 little coronavirus things sitting in a phalanx set up inside someone's immune system, just fighting off antibiotics left, right, and center. Or antiviral, excuse me. I can cure the coronavirus with 3 methods, he says, especially for those who do not live in Morocco.
Wait.
What's so special about not living in Morocco? Of course he can cure you outside Morocco because you're not right there to call him on his like bullshit psychic surgery nonsense or whatever.
If you live close to me, there's a good chance this won't work. But the further away you are,
the better. Yeah, He said, assuring that his remedy is 1,000% safe and that healing is guaranteed in less than 36 hours.
It's 1,000% safe.
I mean, that's not a thing, but
this has got to be the best article I've ever pulled.
Oh my gosh, this is like, this whole article is an example of 3 individuals who really took to heart the adage of, if you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, blind them with bullshit. And that's what's going on. In fact, I'm going to read. We're going to keep reading this article, and I'm going to be rather surprised if we get to the end of the article and bullshit was not considered a remedy at some point. The last on the list is none other than the famous Muhammad El-Fayed. Okay, so we're looking this asshole up after we're done with this. The man who once advised people with chronic illnesses to fast, despite doctors' warnings, made a comeback by linking fasting to the coronavirus. Wow. As if we would expect anything else. In an interview with an Algerian channel, El-Fayed assured that fasting helps fight the coronavirus. I'm going to keep saying this a lot, in that whenever I read one of these idiots' quotes, it's immediately going to be followed with, no, it doesn't.
I feel like all their quotes are basically like they have a generator of sentences, and it's basically the thing I've always said will also cure whatever is trending.
This is homeopathic bullshit Mad Libs edition. This is homeopathy Mad Libs. That's what this crap is. He has since been the subject of a petition calling for his arrest and prosecution for endangering the lives of others. Good. Research over unfounded recipes. Oh, this is going to be good. Using speeches.
Background's going to kick in.
Say what?
Your chemistry background's going to kick in. You're going to love this.
Using speeches that combine religion and science, these people shower Moroccans with recommendations that are not based on scientific research. Okay. Unfortunately, this kind of content is widely shared and viewed by Moroccans who fall for these fake experts and their recipes. Yeah, that sounds about right. Scientists conduct research and go through a series of steps to reach scientific and founded conclusions. Therefore, we cannot compare them to the recipes introduced by these unqualified people. It's a very polite way of saying these uneducated fools.
What's the article from?
This is still the same one.
No, what's the website?
Yabilati?
Okay. I was just thinking, like, whichever newspaper is it, they had to take a minute based upon their viewers.
Yeah, this is called Yabilati, so.
It's just funny because whatever their viewers or their readers are, they realize, okay, we need to take a minute and explain what exactly science is.
We need to Alabama this explanation. So, Moroccan practitioner El Montadar Alaoui said, reacting to many homemade recipes against the coronavirus that have recently become trending. To the doctor, the authors of this sort of content are addressing people who cannot verify what they are told and who are impressed by the style and speech these fake experts use. So basically, they bought into a commercial. To put it in other words, they use religious discourse to impress, he argued, while explaining that referring to alternative medicine and other old-fashioned supposed cures remains very popular among Moroccans. Like I said, bullshit knows no borders. This Moroccan doctor indicated that most of the people who consume this kind of content are unfortunately vulnerable and cannot afford modern medicine. Okay, desperation makes people do desperate things. We get that.
And being literate means that you have a better understanding of, or a better knowledge of the religious scripture that you're quoting, so you come off as an authority on it.
Right, because it tends to be that that's one of the only books that people learn to read in some countries these days.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? And my nerd is going to show quite a bit in here. I have a buddy, and he made and we were playing Dungeons and Dragons. He made an orc cleric. His name was Lug. His intelligence score was like a 6 or a 4, so for non-nerds, that's really, really bad. But his wisdom and charisma were incredibly high. And so he couldn't read, but he had memorized all the scripture that he had been taught and read to him as a child, because he apparently was the backstory was he was an orphan that was found by a particular D&D church faith or whatever. And so that's what he grew up in. And he became a cleric for that religion. So he has this big tome, this ancient holy book that he carries around. And he opens it up, and there's a 50 or 60% chance that every time he opens it up, it's both upside down and on the wrong page. but he's able to wax poetic as if he's reading from the book itself that he's memorized.
It's like the equivalent of like if I just picked up the Bible and I was like, let's see, right about here, in the beginning, God created.
Yes, but not only that, it's upside down.
Wow.
That's what this comes across as. I mean, that's what this really feels like.
I feel like that's what a lot of their victims are probably going through.
True, but I'm willing to bet that a good portion of the people who are slinging this bullshit are in the exact same boat.
You're going to give them the benefit of the doubt of being idiots and not evil?
No, but being an idiot does not preclude one from being an asshole.
Yeah.
So, there is that. Ancient medicine is based on food and medicinal plants. Understandable. We used to do the whole balancing of the four humors based on what you ate, and things like that informed what your health situation was going to be. And to some extent, that does work. If you're having intestinal issues based on what's happening in the bathroom, you either want to eat more fiber or eat more protein. If you're throwing up, eating some crackers to make it easier to throw up and also to not damage your stomach are good ideas. So, I mean...
What about elderberry?
I'm not familiar with that. I haven't really done a lot of looking at that one. I know I've heard of like the whole acai berry stuff.
Like something to drink.
Mm.
But apparently it's actually an active ingredient in E. coli, so there you go.
Right, and it may have some numbing or at least analgesic effects.
One of the last days before we all, because I work somewhere that we're all working from home now,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the last days before we left, somebody was sitting in the break room and they're like, yeah, one of my coworkers told me about elderberry. Elderberry is able to cure everything. Like if you're starting to feel symptoms, go ahead and like make yourself some elderberry. I just got to figure out where to get it from, but if you drink that, like it'll cure the symptoms. And like normally I just walk by and ignore it, and I couldn't. I just stopped, and I was
I've
like,
not heard of elderberry being given the supposed mystical magical property. I've heard of acai berries being given this.
yeah. Well, I
This
stopped,
like
and I thought in my head like I'm going to go to HR over this. But fortunately, we all got sent home anyway, so I think that's what saved me. But I stopped and I turned to her, and I was like, elderberry is in E. coli. All it does is soothe your throat. It doesn't cure viruses. It doesn't do anything like that. Whoever told you that doesn't know what they're talking about. And then I just left.
Yeah. However, its dosages and mixtures can be dangerous for some people. Yes, this is very true. Adding that some charlatans also present recipes whose components are unknown, which can be very dangerous. Yeah, that's like some...
Bloodroot.
What?
Bloodwort.
Bloodroot.
Yeah.
Bloodroot salve. Yeah. Yeah, let's plaster that on. Oh. Why do I have a hole the size of a 50-cent piece in my arm? I wonder why. I mean, there are people who have, like, bought so much into that nonsense that they are now missing 30 to 50% of their face. Because they bought into the bullshit of bloodroot salves, of escharotics. Anyways, Moroccans must remain... I'm going to say everyone, not just Moroccans. I know he's speaking in his own locus of control, but I'm going to editorialize this to a certain extent. Everyone must remain very cautious about what they are told and what they are offered, because nothing can replace a doctor's diagnosis. I agree. He says that he is a doctor. He says, but he cannot enter a mosque and start preaching to people. Okay, that's a good example. He's a doctor. He doesn't go into mosque and start preaching. He doesn't want an imam or a priest coming into his hospital and start diagnosing people. because they are both trained for very, very different things. I would argue that one is way more suited to producing good results in people overall than the other, but that's just me.
Hey, now. Can we agree that if someone was trained in both fields, then that would be the best?
No.
Okay.
Because that's how you get Christian scientists who just end up eschewing modern medicine in its entirety.
If I had to have like surgery and I had like one of the top surgeons in the world perform the surgery, and then at the very end, after the last stitch, he wanted to pray over me, I would be okay with that. I'd think that's good.
If it's gonna make him feel better or her feel better, that's fine. I'll let them do it. I mean, a good portion of my family is still quite religious. If I go to a family gathering, there's going to be a prayer at some point. I mean, I'll sit there and hold hands. I'm not going to bow my head and say anything. I'm just going to stand there and, watch the room. But I'm not going to sit there and like try to obtrusively disrupt the practice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
like throw your glass on the floor. It's all the eyes.
Right. No, I mean, if they ask me about it, I'm not going to lie to them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit there and be like, why are you doing that? This is dumb. And I think it's dumb. I think it's pointless. However, to some extent, some people need that for them to lead a happier, healthier life, and that's fine. My issue has always been, and it will continue to be, when you try to take that and force it on somebody else, especially through either a political or some form of legislative or judicial process, then I'm going to sit there and I'm going to come at you with everything I've got and more. And at that point, I'm not going to stop until you are done. So these people should not take advantage of what religion represents for Moroccans. Agreed. They're using religion to give false hopes. This is from a sociopsychologist. And then they're talking out of their expertise. The same opinion is shared by Muslim scholars in Morocco. According to the chairman of the Tamara Ulema Council, Lassan Scanfal, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. It is medicine that determines a person's ability to fast or not, referring to fake experts who have been telling people that fasting can protect them from the coronavirus. No, it is not going to protect you from the coronavirus. If anything, it is going to make you even more susceptible. Because by not putting fuel into your body for it to burn and consume to create energy and to continue its natural regenerative and restorative processes that happen constantly throughout the day, you are going to compromise your immune system and thus make yourself more susceptible to infection and disease, whether it's the Rona or literally anything else that could be floating around out there. So, keep that in mind. He added that a remedy for a disease must come from the work of doctors and not from that of Muslim scholars. Okay, I'm going to editorialize that. It must come from the work of doctors and scientists and not from that of unqualified individuals. Their only role is to be preachers, be religious scholars. So anyone who speaks in the name of medicine who is not a doctor is talking out of their expertise, or as we call it here in the United States, especially in Texas, we call that talking out of your ass. And no, I don't mean donkey. For his part, the president of the council of the local ulema of Rabat, Abdullah Gadira, said to believe that this attitude does religion bad more than good because everyone has their specialty. He recalls that scientists are conducting scientific experiments to find a vaccine and find out what can treat diseases. They are the ones who have the right to talk about how to fight a disease and what to do with it, he says. Offending religion and pretending to know the unknown is far from religion. You must be patient, yada, yada, yada. Cool. Pretending that this pandemic will be lifted at a specific time in place of doctors and researchers are attempts to create confusion. I agree. We see this happening in the United States as well. Right now, with people talking about like, oh, we're all going to be back doing things the way we used to do in May or June or whenever. It's ridiculous to try and put a date on it.
Yeah.
It'll be over when it's over. And anyone who doesn't think that is either misinformed, misled, or doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Or is that fourth one talking out of their ass. So my little brother keeps jumping up and saying random nonsense here and there. He is correct, though. Death does kill everything.
It does.
I mean, it ends it. Doesn't necessarily stop the spread unless everything is dead. Then, of course, yeah.
I mean, death happens, you know?
Death does happen. It's a natural part of life.
And
I mean,
I think I know we don't want to get too political on something like this, but I think one of the big questions that are now pitting people against each other is people are going to die some way.
Yeah.
It's just you've got a scale right now. And if you go too far this way, then obviously we know what's going to kill a lot of people or whatever. And if you go too far this way, there's going to be people that are going to die for other reasons. And how are you going to balance it? Because it's what is it they said? It's not a zero-sum game.
No, it's not. I mean, it's never a zero-sum game when it comes to life, living, and eventually dying. I mean, it's gonna happen. I mean, do you want to live longer? Okay, here are some things that you can do. Part of that is beyond your control. You can live the healthiest lifestyle imaginable, but if your family has a genetic predisposition for things like cancer or heart disease or some other terminal organ failure type situation, well, I'm sorry, you've got your own DNA kind of working against you to some degree there. You can prevent it, you can kind of stave it off by having these good healthy practices, but it can't save you from everything.
Yeah.
And so that's something that people have to keep in mind. And finally, our Atheist Reformation public service announcement of the week is not everything on the internet is true. Just because you see it on the internet doesn't make it true. I cannot stress this enough. There is no way to understress that statement. Or no, there's no way to overstress it. There's no way to overstate it. I could literally just record a 20-minute video of me saying not everything on the internet is true over and over and over and over again, and that still would not be considered an overstatement by my standard. Because nobody pays attention.
Especially not to us.
Oh, yeah. We got one person watching. It's my little brother. But hey, I'm happy that someone's watching. So we'll probably continue this one. Maybe the next couple of weeks we'll do the 6 o'clock show and see how that runs. That way we can get a little bit of a statistical data on that and see what happens with it.
Well, what were the other articles that we didn't go over?
So the other articles that we did not go over, that we haven't gone over, there is the 110-year-old Irish woman. Religion doesn't buffer young adults from loneliness.
That one's a thinky piece. That one would take a while.
Okay, yeah, and the rising cost of religious freedom in Vietnam. That's another thinky piece there.
The 110-year-old woman one is super short.
Yeah, it's so short that I can get the entire gist of it from reading the headline. 110-year-old Irish woman reveals secret to long life, religion, fresh air, and no alcohol. Except we know that that's not the case. Because
Well,
there's been people who are 113, 117 years old, and they ask them what's the secret to long life, and you got grandma or grandpa sitting there with a cigar and a glass of bourbon.
no, they talk about that. They said one of the previously oldest women had said that it was to have like a pint of Guinness a day or something, and it was like,
Yeah.
so how do we compare these two different lifestyle decisions? There seems to be some inconsistencies in the data.
Right. I mean, in all
It was
honesty,
obviously
you're
the troll that wrote the article.
I mean, your lifespan, in all honesty, is about 30% whatever your genetics are, and then about another 30% luck, and then the other 40% is the choices you make.
Yeah.
I mean, so to me, that's how I kind of see it. Is that 30-30-40 split is 30% genetics, 30% luck, 40% decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, not everything on the internet is true. Like, gosh, there was something several years ago from, I think, World News Daily Report, where they were talking about that they had found chariot pieces or something in the Red Sea, and that was proof that the Exodus had occurred.
I remember you talking about that.
I think we actually brought that up on a show. It was a satirical piece. It was obviously satirical.
And then people started quoting it, and then people started citing the
Yes.
pages that were quoting the satirical article until you had like this incept.
This circular argument of bullshit. And here's the thing, though. You're not gonna like this at all, but it's kind of the same thing with the Jesus story.
Whatever.
You have the New Testament. You have the New Testament. Okay?
Yeah.
Every quote unquote extra biblical source ultimately ends up referring back to the New Testament.
Yeah, but I gave
and
you
nowhere else.
two people that you'd never heard of before that are legit, and you hadn't looked them up yet.
Who?
One of them was Pliny the Younger.
Pliny the Younger? Yes, I've looked him up.
Oh, okay.
I knew who he was. I just yeah. Who's the other one?
I don't remember because it wasn't Josephus. Because Josephus you already knew. Like that was the one you were talking
Right, you
about.
have Flavius Josephus, you have Pliny the Younger, you have Tacitus, and then I think Eusebius.
It might have been Tacitus, but there was someone that started with a D.
Diogenes?
I'm not sure, but it was someone who like basically just full on hated Christians. Because he was like the one that basically like hated Christians.
Are you thinking of like Desiderius Erasmus or something?
No, that would be like a priest.
I was gonna say it's like.
I mean, that's very similar to the name, but that's a completely different figure.
Yeah, well, I know it is. It's like if you're going towards that, I think you may be confused.
No, because he was interested in educating Christian princes, not writing stories about the one true.
But either
Christian.
way, all of their work either refers to each other or refers back to the New Testament.
Well, yeah, okay.
I highly encourage you to look at some of the work done by Robert Price. He's also been a guest on the show.
Yeah.
Dr. Robert Price. He used to teach at the Johnny Coleman Seminary up in the Northeast. And he is a New Testament historian.
Yeah.
And also self-identifies as a Christian atheist. Hmm. He basically follows the loose biblical principle to the best of my understanding, um, of be nice to each other, don't be a dick, do good things for good people.
That's
Basically,
a
being a good person. Really, it's yeah.
that's an altruistic humanist.
He doesn't quite see it that way. He doesn't like that label or secular humanist either, because of the inherent political
Yeah,
affirmations that are usually tied to that.
I'd say that, but if you don't believe that,
Because the
if
man's
you
a
don't believe in
Republican,
the
if I remember
Trinity,
correct.
if you don't believe in the Trinity and salvation through Christ, then you're not a Christian.
Right. No, he refers himself as a Christian atheist because of some of the Christian principles of or what he views as Christian principles.
Yeah, but it's
The
not
golden
in
rule,
line.
that kind of thing.
If you don't believe in the Trinity, you're not a Christian. Like that's just it.
Right. It's a play on words, dude. Read some of his stuff, you'll understand why the play on words is kind of a thing for him. I
Okay.
mean, one of his most recent books is called Jesus Christ Superstition.
Yeah, yeah. I get that.
Yeah, like he does like these comic book style references as titles that usually end up as chapter titles.
Okay.
Like I think he's working on either a book or a chapter in a book talking about Paul, the Pauline epistles, and it's called the Colossal Apostle.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's a comic book nerd. He's very much into like the Lovecraftian Cthulhu um, type eldritch horror, which is pretty cool.
Which I gotta say that the story of Dagon in the Bible is pretty interesting when you bring in Lovecraftian themes. You
Hmm.
know about that one?
It's been a while.
So Dagon is one of the Lovecraftian gods.
It's a name of one of the yeah.
Yeah, but it's also one of the Philistinian gods in the Bible, and they're the same.
Mm,
And in the
okay.
Bible, the Philistines had taken the Ark of the Covenant and stole it because that's what happened apparently a lot more than it probably should have. And
We don't even have any
uh,
evidence that the Ark of the Covenant even existed.
you know, that's besides the point. We're talking about Lovecraft at this point.
I know, but at the same time, it's like you bring that up. We got to talk about Exodus a little bit because there's no evidence that Moses existed.
It's that dude in like was it Ethiopia that has it. Anyway, the
What?
point is that they set it in there with their idols, and then they came back, and Dagon had like fallen over. The statue had fallen over and was bowing, laying down in front of the Ark of the Covenant. They did that a couple more times, and finally on the third day when it came in, Dagon had his head and hands cut off because they kept setting him back up instead of letting him bow down.
Mm.
So yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool story.
That sounds like ancient propaganda.
Whatever. Look, you know, I thought it was a cool story. I enjoyed it, and the Philistinians, however the plural nationality of that,
Philistines.
yes, the Philistines, the Philis, the horse people.
The
Isn't that what it comes
Philistines.
from? Philistines. It comes from
Yeah.
like more than likely they
Your
were.
brain is glitching worse than my green screen backdrop.
I don't think it's my screen. I think it's me.
That's what I said. Your brain is glitching more than my green screen backdrop.
Yes. But isn't the Philistines like aren't they called that because they had helmets with horsehair on it?
Something like that.
So they were probably like, you know, Greek soldiers that got lost at Troy or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a story I'd heard. It's not in the Bible. Bible doesn't make any mention of the Trojan War.
Yeah, it doesn't make mention of a lot of things.
But I'd heard someone say that before, and it sounded like a cool story.
Okay. Well, at this point, I think we'll go ahead and bring the show to a close for everybody. We seem to run out of stuff to talk about, and you're just babbling. So we're going to go ahead and bring it on down. So, everybody remember, please like, comment, and subscribe, and follow the Atheist Reformation on Facebook. If you want to be on the show, feel free to hit me up at the Atheist Reformation at gmail.com, or click on the, not community tab, but the About tab on the channel. The email address is there as well, in case you forget. Also, please remember...
I feel like you basically told the kids it's time to go home. Grandpa's having an episode.
I mean, and you haven't even been drinking, Harry.
Bronson, come here.
Also, remember the Atheist Reformation public service announcement of the week is, and that is, not everything on the internet is true. If you doubt what we're saying, good. Go look it up, read for yourself, and find out. Obviously, I try to go through the stories in their entirety so people see exactly what's going on in them. But if you feel that somehow I'm being disingenuous in the representation of these stories, the links are in the video description below. Click them, go check them out. Tell me I'm wrong. Aside from that, thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll see y'all next week.